Roger had the camera up to his eyes, and he stumbled and fell. I rode across the creek, got off the horse, and took my rifle out of the scabbard in case I had to make a shot.
For 20 minutes with my spotlight, we watched these two creatures.
I'm romantic. I would like Bigfoot to exist. I've met people who swear they've seen Bigfoot.
It's a very ominous feeling. First of all, everything is one color. It's like a dark pewter color. There are no right angles anywhere. There was almost nothing other than a small foldable hatchway that looked recognizable. Everything was really unworldly.
The other option is that these entities are in fact hybrid beings. They are some sort of a hybrid that's coming in and out of our dimension.
My arm contacted him. He just fell back very unexpectedly easy into the other one. And I rolled off the table in the other direction. And they came around the table, and the three of them were coming towards me.
Hello and welcome to Supernatural Station. I'm your host, Jaron, and this is my co-host,
Roman.
We appreciate you being here, and we have an awesome guest today. It's one of those things where I've been chatting with her back and forth on Facebook, and I was just asking her, I'm like, how the heck did we kind of link up anyway? It's one of those things all these links and all these sites that I follow, just trying to get to the bottom of a lot of this stuff. You know, there's this page that I follow called the Woodwalkers. That's pretty cool. And I heard about them from another podcast, but the evidence is overwhelming over here in Arkansas where she's from. And we have PJ on, and I know she has a YouTube channel, which we can go into as well. But it's been good talking with you, PJ, and thanks for coming on our podcast.
Well, thanks for having me. It's nice meeting both of you.
Yeah,
the pleasure's ours for sure. Thank you for joining us.
I like the wood background. That's like one of my favorite designs I'm a cabin person, so I love that look back there.
Well, I'm usually in a different room, and you can see we have a tree in the middle of our house, but we've got some issues going on there. My husband's working, so I had to come off into another little room.
No worries. No worries. Well, thanks for taking the time, and I guess we can start wherever you want to start. This is one of those things where you've had a lot of different experiences, it sounds like. And I guess let me ask you, and this is kind of what a lot of our other podcasts we listen to kind of go this way as well, but I guess what is your origin in all this? How did it all start for you? And I guess just get into maybe some intrigue points that got you into sort of this world.
Okay. Well, we started hunting this 80 acres here. And we lived in a different area, about 10 miles away. And then the second year we started hunting. I didn't get to hunt as much in the beginning because our kids were little. Mm-hmm. But my husband found a set of tracks on this road. And I think he said there were 4, and they were about 8 to 10 inches long. And he thought, it was weird. They were in the mud. It was in the, middle of winter. But Bigfoot was not on the radar at that time, at all. But, and then after that, things just started slowly happening. When I started hunting out here, my husband put me on this deer stand back by this creek. There's actually 2 creeks on this property. And when I sat on the stand, I couldn't sit there. I just felt so creeped out. I couldn't understand why I was feeling this way. I actually had to get down and just leave. But then he put me at another deer stand by another creek, and it was at the edge of a power. We have one of the major power lines go right through the property. And we also have a river that is like less than a mile away. So we're surrounded by water, creeks. We have a spring on the property, and then we have the power line. Well, I had a deer stand there, and I went to my deer stand one day, and there was a limb that was snapped off. It was probably about 10 foot up in the air, completely just snapped, right in two. It was about the size, I'd say it was about 3 to 4 inches in diameter. And I thought, what in the world, what would do this, because there hadn't been a storm still, Bigfoot was not on, not even a thought. And then that was on a Saturday. Well, then Sunday, Paul's brother came out here to hunt with him, and he sat on the stand that I got creeped out on. And, or actually, he sat on the ground, and it was getting late in the day. And he said he heard something, and he turned and he looked towards the creek, which was about 30 yards away. He said he saw something big and black walking up the creek. And so, you know, he couldn't tell what it was. He just said it was big and black. Well, he and my husband, went back out there, and my husband went off into the creek, and he could see this, whatever it was, from the waist up. Well, he could only see Paul from about the shoulders up. So it was a good 2 foot taller, than Paul. And, we didn't know what to make of that. And then, I'm going to try to get through like just the big points.
And if you don't mind, really quick, I wanted to just go back before we keep going. I obviously I can tell for our listeners, I can tell that you know your Bigfoot stuff because you brought up the waterways quite a bit, and then you brought up the power line thing, and I hear this so often. Yeah. Just for our listeners who don't know, it seems like they like to travel those power line paths because they're cut down, so it's like an easier pathway to just travel. I don't know if that's the reason they like them, but obviously water too is a big thing because it creates life, and so they probably get their fish, and I mean they get probably jealous of their waterways. It seems like they get angry at fishermen often. They if they're fly fishing or whatever. And so yeah, I love that you brought all that up because that's really important stuff with Bigfoot.
Yeah, but then there was like different things that's happened. I'm just going to try to hit the main focal points. Anyways, my husband, he put me a stand up by this other creek. It's at the edge of a power line. And I was sitting in it one day. It was in the evening, and there was some dogs that come through. And the way it's kind of situated there, the wood line kind of comes out to a pie shape. And then there's a fence that runs behind my stand that joins that wood line, and it makes a pie shape. So it's like a zigzag. Well, those dogs had came in, and they was up there in the corner where the fence line meets the tree line. And they was growling and rolling around. I thought maybe they had a deer up there. So I get down. I thought, well, my hunting's already messed up. So I get down and I start walking up there, and you kind of have to walk up a little hill. And then once I got up there, I smelled just a bad stench. And then, I ran the dogs off. So I was going to go ahead and run up in that corner and see if they had a deer up there. Well, I started walking up into that corner, and across the fence, it was in the power line itself. And so there was probably another 40 foot to the wood line, and it's nothing but cedar trees, thick cedar trees. Something let out this really deep guttural growl. Mm-hmm. It was like nothing I had ever heard.
Let's hear you imitate it real quick. I'm just kidding.
This is something we tried to find something close. And like a tiger, it was like that deep, when you hear a tiger kind of growl, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
But this was deeper. And I stopped. I looked over there. I couldn't see anything. And, and I've heard people say, like, if they get growled at or wherever, they can feel it. I didn't feel anything, but it was like it surrounded me. It was the craziest thing. And I knew not to run. I knew not to turn my back. So I just started backing out. I had to back about 100 yards till I hit the creek. And once I hit the creek, I turned, and then I ran about another 200 yards to the truck. And I told Paul, I said, I'm not hunting back over there. I said, there's something over there. And, which I eventually started hunting again over there. But I would hear strange stuff, behind the stand. The best way to describe it would be like if you were to take like a heavy sandbag, and then drop it like 20 foot on the sand, like it's just a loud thud.
Okay.
And I would hear that quite often behind me. Never could figure it out. I would hear something like pacing back and forth behind me. Never could figure that out. And then, now I'm trying to think if I actually heard knocks. If I did, I never paid any attention. But my husband and his brother would hear them a lot. And they always wondered what's doing all this knocking, But
so
then,
let me ask you. So you've done a lot of hunting. Did you do hunting before you had this property? Like you've grown up hunting and stuff like that?
I didn't grow up. I didn't start hunting until I married him, and it was either stay home or learn how to hunt. So.
and when you because this got me super intrigued, and I'm like, oh crap, I need to ask this like quick, because I'm gonna forget. But when you said, oh yeah, Bigfoot wasn't on our radar, like that's normal for everyone, right? So what did you think it was? Like, you know what I mean? Because when you hear a roar, I mean, yeah, I just want to. I'm curious if you had like a thought on what you thought it might be, or if you just thought your mind was playing tricks on you or something like that.
Well, by that time, there were shows coming out on TV about Bigfoot, and we would kind of discuss it. Is it possible? But still, in your mind, you're like, yeah, that, But I have a friend who we go to church with. And she kept telling me, it's a Bigfoot. You got a Bigfoot. Because she's seen one when she was a little girl. And she said, it's a Bigfoot, So I had people telling me stuff. And so I guess by that point, it was, kind of on my radar. But still, like I said, in your mind, you just don't even want to think it,
Yeah. And to backtrack, was it your husband's brother or something that was hunting with you guys that saw the black? What were you saying? So yeah. I wonder, I mean, I just like out of nowhere, I thought of this, but I'm like, what other animal could be walking and be that big and black? I mean, the only other thing would be a black bear, but you know how black bears walk when they're awkward on two legs. I mean, that's just not a thing.
And see, around here, we don't have, there was like a black bear spotted like a county over, but it's not something that we have around here. And it definitely wouldn't be that big.
Yeah. But you guys definitely saw something for sure, in my opinion.
But and he would never say, because somebody asked him, "You think it was a Bigfoot?" And he was like, "I don't know what it was." And it scared him. I think he won't admit it, but I think it bothered him, because even now which there's been a lot happen, but when he comes out here now, we don't let people come out and like do whoops or knocks or anything like that. And sometimes some of the family gets a little bit and they'll do a whoop, and he's always like, don't do that, which we tell him, don't do that, but anyways, I had all that going on behind the stand. And then in 2014 we got the opportunity to buy 40 of the 80 acres. And so after we started building, I found a track. Actually, my sister-in-law had found an arrowhead out in the yard. So the next night I went out. Well, let me back up. We was here, she had found the arrowhead, and then me and Paul were out here working, and I was standing in the front. The whole front of our house is glass. And I was standing at the sliding door looking out, and then there's the yard and a creek, and then a small field that's got scattered cedar trees. And and the yard light was putting off enough light to where I could see, those trees. And I thought I seen something run in between them, and it looked big. And I told Paul, I said, I think I just seen something big run between those trees, But anyways, so the next night or the next evening, I went out in the yard. I was going to look for arrowheads, and I found it was just one small track and one large track. The large track was about 4 foot away from the small track. It was just one, and then we came out here one day to work, walked in, and I looked up at the sliding doors, and there was 2 big handprints up at the very top of the sliding doors, like if they were looking in like that,
Oh, wow.
And I looked at Paul. I said, "What is that?" He said, "Looks like handprints." And he just went on working. So I walked outside and I was looking at them. They were huge. And I thought, what in the world? And so I was going to clean. I took a picture of the handprints, but it was on a different phone. And when I uploaded or upgraded to another phone, some of the pictures didn't transfer. So I lost it.
Yeah.
But
I mean, if I saw a hand like that and it was human shaped and everything, good size. Yeah, that would probably trip me up a little bit, especially if everything's glass in your front entrance. That's insane. Yeah.
The whole front of the house, even, because it's got the sliding doors and then it's a cabin style. So there's windows all the way up.
Your husband sounds like a different breed. He's just like, I don't got time for that.
That's him. He's an old country boy. So
I love it.
When you saw those handprints, did it have kind of like a white film, sort of like oily film type thing going on? Because you hear that a lot.
Well, see, I went and got the window cleaner and was going to clean them. And when I sprayed it on and wiped it, it just smeared like it was, greasy. And I was like, what in the world? In my mind, I was thinking this had to be a Bigfoot. That's what I was thinking. But still, your mind does not want to go there.
Or some really big basketball player that put like tons of lotion on his hands and then was looking in, But no, it was a Bigfoot for sure.
But see, where we live at the end of a road. There's one other man that lives back here. He lives on the other hill. There's a private drive. The last mile to our house is a private drive. And then our driveway to our house is maybe a quarter of a mile, maybe.
Okay.
But there's nobody back here. We're surrounded by woods. So, and then I'm trying to think after that. I mean, we got moved in and cell phone service was like pretty much nothing here. You would have to go outside to send a text. There was one area in the house, if you set your phone down and you can make a phone call maybe, but you'd have to put it on speaker because you couldn't move it, and you would just have to sit in this corner and leave it in that spot. So there'd be times I would go outside to send a text or something. And I went out and a tree went down behind the house, and I ran back in. I was like, oh my gosh, because I could hear commotion, And then our son, he moved back home for a little while, and every time he would go outside, he'd call me, Mom, what is this? And I went out there one night, and you could hear a tree just getting like whipped back and forth, branches breaking and everything. And so that we had that going on. And then during that time, the next deer season, we was hunting, and I was sitting in my stand, and I could hear stuff behind me. And then I heard a tree go over. And I was like, okay. Then a little bit later, I heard another tree go over. And I thought, okay, this is, 2 trees. So when I met Paul back at the house for lunch, I told him, I said, that's not really normal, I wouldn't think. And he could tell I was a little unnerved, and he kind of laughed. And he said, well, I'll go back and sit with you this evening. So we go back, get in the stand, and we wasn't there no longer than 10 minutes. It probably wasn't in that long. And there was no wind. It was a calm day, another tree. And I looked at him and I said, I told you, and that's something that happens a lot even to this day. We got a lot of we've already had, I can't remember if it's 3 or 4 go over since spring. When
do you think that's some kind of like act of like a showman act, like they're trying to say they're there? Or do you think they're trying to scare you away? Like, what do you think that is?
I don't know. I think because like the one we heard, it was just me and Paul, and I think there was 2. It was just me and him here, and then the other one we had, there was 2 guys out here with us, and we all heard that one. But I don't know. I don't know if they're just trying to, I've heard people say, well, they're probably just trying to scare you. But, to me, that it seems like an aggressive thing. So
So you guys are hunting pretty much on your land, right? It's like it's within the boundaries of your land. And
Yeah.
so I wanted to ask you really quick, and you can continue your story, but I just want to ask you this. The landowner that you bought it from,
Hmm.
before, did they have any weird things to say to you guys when you were looking at purchasing or anything like that? Or did they sell it for super cheap or anything?
No, and actually, the guy, which he has passed away now, but he came back out one day just to see what all we had done over here, and we asked him, because we were friends. My husband had become friends with his dad, and
Mm.
that's who we got the permission from, was from his dad. And so we asked him, and we told him what all was going on, and he wouldn't say anything. He thought it was interesting, but he would never say anything. Um, but I mean, I I don't think they, that, because he really didn't want to sell the land. He almost backed out on it.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
But he went on ahead and sold us 40 of it.
Yeah, I
But
mean, if he came back to look at what you've done, it means he cared about it enough, probably to see what was going on again. So, yeah,
yeah,
maybe he had some connection to the land and didn't want to tell you guys. Maybe he was trying to be a little protective of those creatures. Who knows? I don't know, but
yeah. I mean, like I said, he seemed intrigued by what we were saying, but he didn't act like he had ever had anything happen. But quite honestly, I don't think he would have said anything.
he's the type, maybe like an old school. I feel like those
He
older
was,
generations and stuff, they won't say anything.
but his son comes out and camps, but his son brings their it's a German Shepherd, and you can't get within 20 feet of this dog. I mean, he has to keep him on a chain.
Oh wow.
And I've always thought that, you know, because he came over, or he camped over there one day or one weekend, and I told him I would make him some deer chili and bring to him the next day. And it was supposed to rain, and he said, "Well, I can still get in the trailer. There was a house trailer over there at that time. If it started raining." Well, the next day, I go over there, and he's gone, completely gone. And I thought, well, I don't know, maybe I don't know, something scared him off, or because he could, get in the trailer if it got, and it was a pretty bad storm, but so I don't know what happened with him there. And he has been back 2 times since, I think, and camped, but he's never said anything. He's probably maybe 25 years old. He's young, but and then as far as other stuff that's happened, Paul and I were coming home from church one day, and used to, we would have to drive through a creek. We drive over it now. We put in horns. I got tired of getting blocked out whenever we got a big rain.
Yeah.
But we still had to drive through, and so Paul pulled off down into the creek, and he just stopped, and I said, "What are you looking at?" And he said, "Look down there." And I was looking down the creek, and there was an arm. We could see probably 3 foot of an arm, and it was moving its arm back and forth, splashing water. It was splashing water up out of the creek, probably 3 or 4 foot. And it was black. And it was so black that it almost had like a blue. And you could see the sun just glistening off the hair. And at that time, well, there was a man and woman. She has passed away, but she was pulling out of her gate, and we were blocking because we share that road. And so we had to pull up and pull in our driveway so she could pull through. And, Paul didn't turn around, and he was like, "What was that?" I said, "That was an arm." I mean, I knew exactly what it was. And he tried in every way to say, "Well, maybe it was a beaver." And I'm like, "That was not a beaver. Beavers don't splash back and forth like that." And, it took him about 2 days to finally come to terms. And he said, "Pam," he said, "it was an arm." He said, "I know it was an arm."
See,
so,
was it connected to, like, I guess how So was it just down like this, like reaching into the water, or?
No, okay, the way it looked, and then we went down there a few days later, and where it was sitting, we think it was sitting in this deep hole in the creek.
Okay.
And the land, and there's like a tree that kind of juts out, and it was sitting behind that, and all we could see was the arm, splashing water. I don't know why it was splashing. I don't know if it was cooling off or
it was like going forward like this, doing something.
Yeah, it was like going back and forth with
Okay.
its arm, full arm. But so after seeing that, you think, well, maybe they have to be real. We've seen a big arm, but it's when you see one like I have,
yeah,
it's completely different.
Well, and before we get into the really cool pool story, because I do want to hear that one, did you catch any tracks before you saw the arm?
Yeah, the small one and the big one.
That's right.
Yeah.
Did you, and you guys, you assumed it was a Sasquatch at this point with the tracks, right?
Well, that's the only thing we could kind of think, you know. It's whenever you see stuff and you think, well, I guess they are real, but it's still, your mind does not want you to, or this is how it was for me. I believed, but at the same time, it's hard to believe.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Yeah, I've had a sighting too, and I'm still, there's a moment where I'm still like, was I just putting something in a box just to put it in a box? Like, because, it's just, I literally attributed it to something that's not even moving. Like, I thought it was a stationary thing, and then it moved. And then that's when my whole mindset just and then I was trying to put it somewhere, you always hear stories like, it's got to go somewhere, and it couldn't. And then I was like, but then I believed in Bigfoot already. So I'm like, I guess that's what it was. Like, there's nothing else it could have been if it was 10 feet, 8 to 10 feet tall and black and long arms. And it's just crazy. So I get where you're coming from with that.
Well, and I think living out here, knowing you're going to be living, that makes a big difference. You don't want to think you're having to live around them, but, and I guess, the next big thing, would be, the pool. And this one gets me. It's hard for me to tell it. I'm going to try to get through it. Sometimes I cry. I don't want to do that. So
hey, we're here for anything. It's a free for all here. So,
but it started on a Monday, and I went out, got in the pool, and I was hearing. I heard this whistle. It came from across the power lines in the woods over in that direction. It was a really loud, just a shrill whistle. And I thought, well, that was weird. And a little bit later, I heard it again, but it was in the woods on our property. And I was laying on the mat, and I looked down, and there's like the yard, and then there's cedar trees that has like an opening in between the trees. And then it opens up into a little small field. Well, I looked down there, and I seen what it was looked like a reddish brown shoulder and a head sticking out of the trees and the bushes back there. And I thought, what in the world is that? And so I laid there. I watched it. I never seen it move. And I thought, I'm going to float over. And at this time, I didn't have a deck or anything. I just had this little tray Paul had made me to where I could put my water and phone, and I always carry protection out there with me.
That's smart.
Yeah. And I had it all laying there. Oh, it goes everywhere with me. So I thought, I'm going to float over and get a drink of water and then float back and see if it's still there. And I was trying to kind of watch, when I was floating, but I got to a certain point where the limbs from one of the cedar trees was kind of blocking. So I got a drink, floated back, and it was gone. And I thought, okay, whatever that was was mobile. It can move. And so that night, Paul and I was sitting out front, it was late evening, and we heard a knock come from that area. And that's something else I hear all the time out here now. And then Wednesday night, we sat back out front. We heard another knock come from that general area. And then from the other side of the house, because we're surrounded by woods, we heard what sounded like a really deep, rough sneeze. And I looked at Paul. What was that? And so he got up and he went over there and he looked, which it was, too dark in the woods. You couldn't see. So he came back and he sat down. And then the next day, I had to get it back out there and clean the pool. We were getting ready to go on vacation. I needed to get it done. And so I walked out of the house, walked past my car, and to the left is, yard and the driveway and them woods. Well, I heard what sounded like a grunt. And I stopped. I looked, I was scanning the woods. I didn't see anything. So I went down the steps to get down to the yard. Our house is partially underground. So it's, like a tier level yard. Like from our house, you have to go down. Well, I walked down the steps and walked over to the pool, put my stuff on the thing, got in the pool, and I heard the grunt again come from the same area. I'm scanning. I'm like, what? It would kind of remind you of a buck grunting, but it was like really, really deep, And I thought, that is not a deer. What am I hearing? So I went to cleaning the pool, and I remember at one point I heard what sounded like metal hitting metal. And Paul has a bunch of metal pipes and stuff back there in that little field where I had initially seen the reddish brown. He has a bunch of metal pipes and stuff back there he uses for welding and stuff like that. And it sounded like something like metal hitting metal, like something picked up a pipe and hit another piece of, I was like, okay. And then I heard what sounded like I don't know if it was a tree falling or if it was a big limb that fell, and this was like a stretched out space of time between the metal and the tree. And so I was starting to get a little unnerved, by what I was hearing. And I thought, well, I'm going to make one more swipe back around the top of the pool, and then I'm going to get out. And then, before I continue, I believe in guardian angels, and this is going to sound crazy, but I've heard mine speak to me. This would have made the fourth time. And each time it's a female, and it saved either my life or my children, And so as I made my way back around, I just happened to look up, and it was about 40 yards away, 20 being like the yard and driveway, and then 20 up into the woods. It was standing there. And I remember I just froze. I looked at it, probably looked at it for about 5 seconds. And that's when she said, "Don't look at it." And so that's when I just turned right back down. I looked at the water. And in my mind, I was thinking, I've got to get out of this pool. Because, I was 15 foot away from my ladder. And I'm thinking, I'm going to die. Because the way it was standing, it looked like it was in like a charge, like it was going to charge. Oof. And, I'll describe what it looks like after I get through this. And so I looked back at the water, and I was just thinking, I got to get out of this pool. And I was trying to look, and the carport where Paul parks his truck is right there beside the pool. And the top of it kind of comes down over the sides a little bit. And so I was trying to look underneath there, and there was some stuff stacked up in the corner. I couldn't see up in that direction. I didn't know if it was coming towards me. And I was trying to kind of bend down. I was trying to make my way towards the ladder, but the ladder was kind of in the direction of it. My ladder was like at 11 o'clock, and it would have been like at 1 o'clock, And So I remember I was looking, and I turned to look at my ladder to see how close I was getting. And I don't remember anything. I don't remember getting out of my pool. The next thing I remember, I was standing on those steps that lead up to where I park my car. And it was like, the best way I can describe it is like when you're coming out of anesthesia. And everything was foggy. I mean, it wasn't foggy outside. It was a bright, sunshiny day, but I was seeing fog. And I remember I was scanning. And I've went over this in my mind so many times. I've tried to remember, could I hear anything? I don't even remember like being able to hear. I just remember scanning, wondering where it was at. And I ran up the steps and I ran into the house. Well, I had figured out just, because I'm not exactly sure what time I got in the pool. I usually tried to plan it out to where when I got out of the pool, I could go rinse off and come down and start getting dinner ready. Well, by the time I got in, in my mind, I don't even know what was going through. I remember I was in the shower thinking, what just happened to me? What did I just see? So I know I got in the shower. But when I came downstairs, Paul was coming through the door. And so what I can figure out, the best that I can figure out is I lost probably an hour's time. And then what this creature looked like, it was probably about 8 foot tall. It had reddish brown hair, and I say it had taken because everything, it looked deliberate. Taken its hair and pulled it over its face. I could not see the face. This thing looked well groomed. I mean, like brushed. I couldn't see any skin. I could see the pec muscles in the chest, and its head was rounded. Its shoulders went just straight out. They didn't have a slope or anything to them, straight out. I could see the arm muscles, and at the waist, it kind of tapered at the waist. I could see the sun was hitting it on the right side, so I could see the right side really good. I could see the left, but the right side was really lit up. I could see the right thigh, huge thigh. I could see the knee and part of the calf muscle. And the only skin I could say that I seen was its hands, and they were black. And then I remember when it was standing there, it had its arms kind of bowed out. Like I said, it looked like it was like in a charging position. It had about probably 6-inch long hair hanging off the arms, and that hair was blowing in the wind.
Oh.
But I never could see its face, and I don't know why it done that. I don't know. Because I think it was deliberate. I don't think it walked around with its hair over its face. And like I said, it was well groomed. There was no leaves, sticks, anything in the hair.
You think this was the same reddish brown color you saw in that little clearing before? So the same creature, probably. And then it just kind of waited to come back and was still upset for some reason.
Well, I think he was watching me.
Yeah.
And I've actually, I think, seen him twice again. But he stays further away. He doesn't, I've had people say that they think that, he had bad intentions that day. That's what I think. I believe that. Otherwise, and I know, like the guardian angel, I've had people call me a Fruit Loop, but No,
I wanted to get into that actually, because my brother and I we're big believers in the spiritual world, and the fact that we believe the same. We believe that they're out there helping us, and whether it's our ancestors, like family members that have passed on, or other guardians that have been sent to us from the heavenly realm,
Yeah.
and they help us. And you have to trust and listen to those voices. It's funny that you bring that up, because we were just talking about this last night. Like, we were hanging out last night, and that was a topic we were talking about, was like, when you hear that, whatever it is telling you to do, you have to pay attention to it. And the people that don't, I think, get in massive trouble.
Oh yeah, we were walking through a trailhead in Yellowstone, which is where I got my shirt. It was a lot of fun this last weekend, and it was just me and him. We didn't have any weapons. We didn't have any bear spray. We were being very stupid for some reason. I don't know why, but we were walking through this trailhead, and you see a distance, it's all just trees, and I'm like, Roman's ahead of me. He's walking a little bit ahead of me, and I just go, "Hey, Rome," and he's like, "Yeah," and I'm like, "I don't think we should take that corner right there." Mm-hmm. And he was just like, "I have the same feeling." For some reason, like, both of us got that dread, and
it was overwhelming. Like, usually
we're turning around.
We wanted to keep going, because we actually weren't that far into this little hike that we started, but it was so quiet. There was almost no sound in the woods. You hear that a lot too. Yeah. And whether that means like probably some big predators in the area or something, but we just kind of like, okay, if we turn this corner, we're going to hit something we don't want to hit. And it's going to be mad.
See, that happened to me again this past spring. I like taking pictures, and I was out in the power line, and I was trying to do this certain type of picture. And anyways, I was going to walk over to the cedar tree and spray some water on that. It's just different things you do to make a picture. Well, I was trying to get the little water drop to be just right. And I couldn't. I thought, well, I'm going to walk around the other side of the tree. I was feeling uneasy out there, and I wasn't paying attention. I was just, thinking, nope, I'm not going to be scared. And I had actually heard a knock come from the woods. It sounded, like it was kind of, further away. But as I walked around that cedar tree, and there's several cedar trees over there, I got to a point, and I looked down, and there was a stick. And when I first seen it, I thought it was a snake. And I stopped, and I was like, oh, it's just a stick. So I went to walk forward, and literally I heard dumped. And it was like I hit a wall. I couldn't move. And I thought, okay. And I just started backing up, and I loaded up my stuff and went back to the house,
You didn't want to be the statistic, I feel like that's like the missing 411 people. They just keep going. They hear that voice, and they don't listen to it, And I mean, that's there for a reason. You hear like your conscience, but I do think it's bigger than that. I think it's it's the helper, it's the Holy Spirit, whatever it is, but I definitely agree with you. It's definitely, I think it's a guardian angel. Roman, actually, another thing too, he almost hit a bus, or you did hit a bus.
Yeah.
With it, he used to have this little car, and he had his head down for a minute, turned back up, and then he hit into this bus that was stopped at a railway. And that was a long time ago, but he's adamant that somebody put their hand on his shoulder and pulled him back so he didn't hit the dash and everything.
Yeah, I was driving like 45 miles per hour, and I was like trying to get on a busy road, and then what I didn't realize is that there was a railroad track right there, like right as I get on the busy road, and all those city buses have to stop at all those, right? So I didn't realize I'm gearing up to go super fast, and this thing's already at a stop. So I crashed into it, but yeah, I definitely felt like an arm just like reach over and like literally hold me so tight that like the seatbelt couldn't even tighten on me. Like when I made impact, it was like nothing moved me, because that whatever that was holding me so
like
tight.
A full body, just boom. Nope.
And then we talked to our mom about it, and she's kind of like a psychic medium type person. She believes in all this stuff too, and she's, she believes in like God and everything, but she says that it was one of our grandmas, like her grandma, so it'd be our great grandma is who she thought it was.
Which
and she had a lot of reasons.
Very well could be, for sure. Yeah. So we definitely agree with you, or believe you in that, for sure.
Well, that's one thing that, it's saved my life and my children. And so when I hear, and it's a distinct voice, I know it when I hear it, I just hear it in my head. And
who do you think it is? Do you have any idea who it could be, or do you think it's just a guardian that you wouldn't?
I think it's a guardian angel from God.
Yeah,
that's what I believe.
That's awesome.
And on my channel, I actually told some of my stories. I can't remember what number it is. If y'all ever want to listen to some things that's happened to me,
yeah, for sure.
like what you just described. So.
Oh, we'll check it out. Actually, and you need to tell the listeners at the end of the show how they can find you. So we'll give you that opening at the end. But do you have any other Bigfoot stuff that's happened? Anything else that took place that we haven't covered?
Let me see. I know it was them. Well, one for sure. Paul was actually over on the other property. He was mowing the field out there, and I was sitting here by myself. I was sitting out front, and I heard a metal sound again. and then I started smelling, and that's something else. Okay, out here we smell what smells like strong urine, a rotten urine. It stinks so bad sometimes you don't even want to breathe.
Yeah.
But this was different. It had more like a garbage feces smell. And I'm like, man, what am I smelling? And I was, looking around. I'd heard that metal sound, and I just happened to look over, and almost in the same area where I had my siding, it was just, a few feet over. It was gray, like a ash gray color, and it wasn't as big. But when I looked over, it was there, and it just went like it was on an elevator, like super fast.
Wow.
And I was like, oh my God, I just, and I did get up. I walked, over by where my car is. I was looking. I don't know where it went. And then, so when Paul got back, he went over there and he found what looked like there's so much leaf litter here, you can't get a good track, but there was a track in the leaves. It was, I don't know, probably maybe 14, 16 inches long. I don't know. It's hard to tell in the leaves, but, and I like the reddish brown one. It was, last fall. Paul was down the driveway, cutting a tree. It was a dead tree, and he was going to cut it because he was afraid it would fall, and block the driveway. And I was sitting out front, and I started feeling uneasy. And so I thought, well, I'm just going to go hop on the 4-wheeler and go down there and see how much more he likes. And I got up and I headed towards the shop, and I heard that loud thud sound. And it came from back in that little field area where I initially had seen the reddish brown thing. And I turned, I looked down there, I didn't see anything. So I walked on to the shop. And when I got to the shop, I heard it again, and I turned, and there was reddish brown sticking out of the woods. And I thought, you were kidding me. And I thought, I hope it's just a limb, like a broken off limb or something. So I hopped on the 4-wheeler, took off, and went down there with Paul, and he was actually on his way back. So I turned around, and when I come back, I looked down there, and it was gone. And I literally, when I was trying to tell Paul, I went into a panic, like almost a panic attack, because he scares me. I've seen things like in the creek, just like glimpses of stuff walking in the creek, not the creek right out here in the front yard. There's a creek that goes to our front yard. It's probably 50 yards from the house. And then there's a small field and then another creek. So I would say it's probably about a little over 100 yards away. I've seen what looked like something walking in the creek. There's so many trees, and bushes. And we've caught glimpses of stuff in the power lines, like be driving through on the gravel road. We have to drive, under those big power lines and see something in the power line, and then it's gone, just stuff like that.
Have you ever seen red eye shine or anything like that, like in the dark? Or have you ever seen what people describe as like the lights, like the little orb lights that sometimes accompany these things?
Well, I've seen it was almost like a lime green glowing eyes. They were about, I don't know how to call it. This was big, what I seen. We was driving down the gravel road, and the headlights were hitting it. And I thought, I am not even looking over there when we drove past. But they were lime green, but the lights, oh, yes, I've seen a lot of the orbs. Paul's seen them. The first one that I seen, I was sitting in the living room. Paul had went to bed. I was up, sitting in the chair. I think I was playing a game on my phone. And, like I said, the whole front's glass. We've got 2 big glass windows and then 2 sliding doors. And above that, there's more glass and then more glass on the top. Well, I just happened to catch something out of the corner of my eye, and I looked over, and then I thought, wow, that's a big comet. And it was coming by one of the big rectangle windows. And I was looking at it, and it just stopped. And it was about maybe a little bit bigger than a baseball. But this thing was shaped like it had a tail. And it was stopped there at the window, right outside the window. It was illuminating inside my house. I could see the reflection off the ceiling. It literally stopped. And then the whole ball just turned, just rotated. And when it did that, the tail just whipped and it shot off.
Wow.
And then Paul has seen, it was the same, and that was like I don't even know how to describe the color. It was like a pearly white, but it was sparkly like a star, real sparkly. And then Paul seen a white orb out the other windows. And our daughter, who is a police officer, she was out here, and she had taken her stepson, and they was in the creek out here in our front yard, and they had been hearing some strange stuff. Well, she said she looked up and she said it was only like 5 or 6 foot in front of her. There was an orb floating about 8 inches above the creek. And then she said it just dropped into the water. And she said it literally splashed.
Wow. So it was like physical. Yeah.
And then I don't know if did y'all ever hear of Kerry Arnold?
Sounds very familiar.
Yeah, it does sound.
He was the host of a podcast, right? I forget the podcast. Odyssey. Yeah. Yep. Of course, I feel for his family.
Oh yeah, we've heard Wes talking about when he passed and all that stuff.
That was tragic.
I'm sure you listen to Wes.
Yeah. Well, see, he came out here to our house.
Oh wow.
And he stayed for 3 days, and he had some amazing stuff on audio and video. And the last night he was here, he caught those lights in the power line.
Wow.
But he when he was in that wreck, he had all of our stuff in there, everything that he had, and it all got ruined. So.
Shoot. Well, I'm sorry for your loss with him being a friend or close to you guys in some way. Yeah, it was too tragic. I didn't know him or anything, but yeah, just hearing the stories from all the other podcasters that know him and stuff.
What do you think those orbs are? I just want to ask you really quick because we're still on that topic. What would you say if someone was to ask you what these things could be? Like where does your mind go?
To me, it seems like they kind of go hand in hand a lot. I think Sasquatch is there's something more to them. And I don't know if they can turn into energy. That's kind of what I'm thinking. I don't know if it could be part of what they talk about in the Bible, the giants of the Bible.
Yeah.
That's where because I try to, do everything biblically. And so, that's where my mind goes. And it makes me wonder if that could be their form when they're not physical here. I think they're a physical being when they're here. Yeah. I think they can bleed. I think they eat. But I seen, you was talking about earlier about me seeing them. This, it was actually before spring because there wasn't no leaves or anything on the tree. Paul, we're building a little cabin out here beside our house to have, when guests come over, that way we have more room. And he was out there, he was cutting down these little trees. And I was in the house. I just happened to come down the stairs and I looked out the sliding doors, and then across the field, there's, cedar trees, and then there's a gap. There was something standing there in that gap. And I looked at it. It was, like a brown, about the same color brown as your shirt.
Okay. Yeah.
About that color brown. And this thing, it took off. It went like from 0 to 60 in the snap of a finger. There was no, I mean, it was just boom. And then I could see it through the trees, boom, 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 boom. It was going back and forth, boom, boom, boom.
Ooh.
And then it come back. It never would come back out into the gap. And I seen it doing that. I seen it probably because I was freaking out because I didn't know what I was seeing. But it done that probably 5 or 6 times. And there is nothing on this earth that can move like this. Nothing. And so Paul, he went out there. He had his, coveralls on. So he went out there, and I stood back at the house, and it would have been about his size. So, with Paul's boots on, he's about 6 foot. So it would have been, only about 6 foot tall, and about man, a little bulkier, than a average man with, just normal clothes. So it wasn't a really big one, but I mean, I've had so much stuff. The house getting hit, something pecking on my bathroom window when I'm in the shower. I mean, and to me, it makes me think of a juvenile, and
yeah,
I think that could have been probably a juvenile.
I'm with you on the there's something more to these things for sure. Mm-hmm. I mean, like you said, the ability, speed ability.
Yes.
The weird thing where you see tracks and then they're just gone.
Yeah.
Like, that's like them turning into orbs or something.
That's right, what we kind of feel you on that, because I'm like, I have no idea. But and the Nephilim thing always comes into my mind too, just because there's the extreme abilities. You know what I mean? Like I would tell Roman, like Medusa and Perseus and Hercules, they were all real. I think they were all real Nephilim. They were all real like ability driven creatures. You know what I mean? And so I don't know. Maybe there is a day of old thing that's still hanging around, and we can tell seems like to me they're ancient of some sort. Since especially because all the natives have such stories of them for such a period, But yeah, I was going to ask you, do you think that there's a migration situation with these things, or do you think they're always here? Those specific ones, like it's the same family of them.
I think like the ones that were here, like when we first built and everything, and like when I feel like the ones that are here now, I don't know if they're more used to us or if it's a total different group.
Okay.
Because I don't feel the aggression that I used to. So I don't know, but used to, I mean, it was crazy out here. Now I do think that there is a juvenile, and I do believe he's the one that pecks on my bathroom window, that hits the house. Oh, and I also had something urinating on my car. I mean, it urinated on my car up by the door handle.
Oh man, territorial then. It's got to be something weird like that,
And that scares me.
Yeah, me too. That would scare me too.
I don't know. And then I have a little, well, he's, 2 years old now, little grandson. But, I take care of him a few days a week. And, he was little. He wasn't very old when this happened, when I found the urine on the car. But it had urinated on my side of the car, on my door. And I thought, what in the world? And then, I washed the car. And, we live on a gravel road. You cannot keep a vehicle clean. And a few days later, I went to go pick up my grandson. Mom puts him in. I just stay in the car. She puts him in. I come back. I go around to get him out. And there's urine on that door where I put him in at. Or, where he got. And I was like, you're kidding me. So I've had people say, well, they're marking your car because they're trying to keep you safe. I'm like, so I don't know. I mean, to me, it's more of a territorial thing. That's what it sounds like to me. I don't know.
Yeah. Really quick, one question for you, and then we can go wherever. But you guys, you had that one experience in the pool with the kind of scary one. But if they are this powerful thing, which we kind of think they have these weird special abilities, it seems like, why is it that they haven't really why don't they attack? Why don't they just take you guys out if they want to? That's another weird thing, but maybe there's some rules that they have to follow.
I think there's rules. And, and I think maybe sometimes maybe there is some that do become protective of people. I was hunting a couple of years ago, and Paul was on the 4-wheeler, and he had went all the way up to the top of the power line, and he said, when I come back down, I'll swing by and pick you up. He said, so just stay in your stand. So it was getting dark, and big cedar thicket behind me, or especially to my left. And I was sitting there waiting on him, and all of a sudden I hear this big, deep breath in and then back out, just 30 yards away from me. And I'm like, you are kidding. It was 30 feet away from me. Oof. I mean, it was just on the other side of them trees.
Yeah, too close.
And, and I know, and I've told myself, well, if it wanted to take me out, it could have took me out right then. It was pretty much dark. So I don't know.
It's got to give you a little bit of comfort there, though, just that at least they haven't done something terribly horrible like that. But it is scary that they're out there, and what are these things like, and how big they are, and just how,
Do they do territorial things to your husband too, or is it just?
It's just me. They seem to be more with me. Now, I don't know why. He hasn't had a full on sighting, which he has heard, a lot of the same stuff that I have. But like the pecking on my window, I've been here by myself and, Paul was working real late one night, and, something started and we have security cameras. Well, the one that points out towards my car had quit working. And, Paul, it has an on and off switch on it outside, but it's really, really hard to get to. And Paul kept finding it switched off. And anyways, it wasn't working. And so I was in the house, and something started pecking on that window right underneath that camera. The camera wasn't working. I was in the bathroom when I heard it. And I'm like, you're kidding. And then it was pecking, and then it stopped, and then it got louder. It was pecking harder. And I had already heard a noise from our bedroom. Our bedroom is up. And when I say upstairs, our upstairs is actually ground level because the back part of the house is underground. And I had went up there and was, I thought, God, what was that? Because it sounded like it came from the closet. And I think something hit the outside of the house. So I called her my sidekick. And I had that one with me. And so I went back downstairs. I went to the bathroom, and that's when I heard the pecking on the window. And I mean, it was like, it was pecking for about 10, 15 seconds, and it paused. And then it started doing it again. It got louder. Yeah, oh brother. So I just kind of eased down the hallway, and I turned and went and got into the cabinet and got out something bigger.
Yeah, that makes sense. You have to have something bigger at that point.
Yeah.
I want to switch gears really quick. Just it's kind of it's obviously the same topic, but we were watching your channel and we saw some videos of like nest area, like this cool nest area I guess you were describing Paul could actually fit in there and like sit down or something. Yeah. And that's cool stuff to kind of go into, some of the evidence that you find that you're like, I don't know what else could make this thing out here, right? So there's that, and then there's the footprints too that you kind of mentioned. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, the nest thing, he was hunting, and he could see something black, and he thought, what is that down there? It was right on the creek. And so he walked towards it, and it was the opening of that is what he was seeing, the black.
Okay.
And so, we went down there and we looked at it, and it was it was a big, big stickers, like thicket with stickers everywhere. It's hard to walk through. It was hard for me to even get in there and film it. But it was a bunch of sticker bushes, and they were arched over. And then there was all kinds of other sticks just poked in there everywhere. On the outside, when I was standing there, I'm five. I can't even say I'm 5'1", so I'm real short. It was about my height on the outside, and he crawled in it, and he could sit down comfortably. So, like on the inside, I would say maybe 3 foot tall in there. But I mean, it was crazy, and it was right there by the creek, and we wondered if maybe it was something they had made to put like a baby in.
Ooh.
Yeah, very likely. Yeah.
Was there like a bunch of leaves and stuff like similar to like what you'd see a nest inside, or was there like any smells or anything in there? Or?
No, as far as I don't think there was very many leaves at all in there. And we even looked for hair. We got a flashlight and looked for hair, but we never found anything. And then it wasn't too long after that. I don't remember how long, but it was because he found it in the winter. So I would say by the next summer, we went back over there, and there was a dead tree behind it, but the whole top of that dead tree was broke off and smashed that thing flat.
Oh wow!
So it was destroyed after that.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, looking at, because I've seen your structure, you sent it to us. That nest, I would say it's a nest, probably, yeah, or something like that. I only think there's two things. It has to have it has to be like human or that. You know what I mean? Because the way it's designed, it's like weaved and stuff. It
the way
looks
the
like
shoved in, like you were saying.
Well, there is no way. These sticker vines were like, some of them were like the size of like a dime or bigger, big around. And then there's no way a human could have taken that and arched those.
Right.
Yeah.
And then plus all the other stuff that was weaved in there, and I don't know. I mean, that's just what, we kind of wondered if it was like a little place for a young one to stay while mom.
Yeah, it shows some intelligence, how it's like, we don't want you coming back here to see what we build and why we build it and where we build it and, all that stuff. So it's like, I'm slamming this thing down, and you're never going to be able to come back and check it out. That's crazy. Wow,
man, you have a lot of cool stories, and we could just keep going probably, but I know we're already into like the hour and 20 minutes almost. So I don't know. Is there anything? I mean, I know I remember you sent me a video where you saw a light anomaly in the middle of those trees.
Yeah, that was a game camera picture. Yeah.
Do you think that was one of those orbs again?
Because where this camera was pointing, there was no light source. It was pointing in, at the edge of a field out here, across the creek. There was no light source. And what is that net looking thing?
Yeah. That was weird.
The raccoon set it off. There was a raccoon, and that's what set off the camera. But
yeah, that was interesting. Are we able to post? Can we post those pictures? Did you already get?
Yeah, okay. We can post those ones except for the few that you told me not to. Right? Is that okay?
Yeah, because I put those up. She gave me permission to put those up on my channel, but I wouldn't want to post her pictures.
That's totally good. Yeah, I mean, the ones you have are good enough to post to show people that there is some very strange things going on over there. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, is there anything else you want to add? I mean, have you had any like alien experiences that would tie into it, UFO type situations or anything like that?
I've seen lights, that like shoot across and then make a right angle, stuff like that. I've never had, anything, that, my main thing has just been, I've always been kind of sensitive to things, and been that way since I was little. And, just Bigfoot.
I think these things are definitely on the paranormal side of things. I don't think they're just straight animal, like ape animals or anything, because of all the weird stuff. And they do gravitate towards certain people.
They pick and choose. Me and Rome were in the car together,
when I saw what I saw. So it's weird, but it's like the ones that are more sensitive, you know?
Yeah.
So that's cool. You've got some amazing stuff going on over there, and I can't wait to, like, if you're gonna you got to keep the world posted. You got to keep. I love your channel. You got to post more videos and stuff. We'll keep up on it, and going with that. Where do people find you? Like, what's the best way to find that channel on YouTube or wherever?
Yeah, what they're called, all the things, just so the listeners can hear.
It's a PJ Arkansas Sasquatch, Giants of the Woods. Usually, if you just type in PJ Arkansas Sasquatch, then it'll pull it up. So,
what's your goal with that? Are you planning to just keep posting videos on there and just hope it grows a little bit?
Just activity, and it's been a coping mechanism for me because I don't think y'all. Oh, this has been like trying to live with them after my side. I was terrified. I actually started making myself this spring go out and take walks by myself, film as I'm walking, and trying to get myself not so scared. I hunt out here. Paul's always around close, but I used to be all over this place by myself. Never gave anything a second thought until that day. After that, after seeing how huge it is, that turned my world upside down. And so my channel helps me cope. Like if I have activity, just talking about it helps me. And in return, it might help somebody else that's going through the same thing, And
yeah, my favorite quote is that, like what you're saying, where it's like, it's that being naive to something is better. It'd be better just to stay naive because it's once you know something's there, it's harder to get back from it. Like even me, I won't go into it, even though I'm a bigger guy and stuff. And even if I'm packing something or whatever, I tend not to want to go in the woods alone. Like I want to bring somebody with me. I'm not going to just go hiking on my own, And I think it's just because of all the things I've seen and researched and, I guess, if you will. So I think, I know what you're saying.
Awesome because a lot of people they don't go back in the woods ever again once they have an encounter. And I don't blame them at all because I wouldn't either probably. So you're braver than most. And I think that's great that you're getting out there because the woods belong to us too,
Yeah. Well, the thing is, this is where we live. We live in the woods. We've had people say, "Why don't you sell your property and move into town?" I'm like, I've dealt with human monsters. They're just as bad. So
100% worse sometimes.
But anyways, and one amazing thing that it's what I tell people. I may not ever find answers. None of us may not ever find answers. Through this, but I've met some of the most amazing people throughout this. And that, to me, that's a win in itself, just meeting people, So.
Yeah, absolutely. That's my coping mechanism is getting to know you guys. Like, this is super cool that you're out here dealing with this and just seeing everyone's experiences, and they're so unique and so different, but there's something going on out there, and it's just cool to be able to share those experiences with each other and have the camaraderie. So we're actually going out to, it's called Phenomenon in Vernal, Utah, because we're from Utah. And so it's only 3.5 hours away, but like all the big wigs are going there. It's by Skinwalker Ranch. It's all that stuff, right? And so we've gone there a few years in a row, but I love going there because it's the same thing. You talk to so many people that are just like mind, and no one calls you crazy. It's like, hey, this is how it is. It's real. So.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. It's been a huge pleasure. We really appreciate you, PJ, and I hope we can stay in touch, and we'll definitely follow your channel and all that kind of stuff. And hopefully our listeners go check it out. Go on our YouTube and subscribe and everything. And if you have any questions, you're welcome to reach out to her directly, or you can reach out to us and we'll pass them on, whatever's easiest. But we really appreciate you taking the time. You've got some amazing encounters, and I'm sure there's more. So I guess keep that sidekick on.
If I see you've had another experience, I'm going to hit you up. Maybe we'll have you on again or something. But I really appreciate you taking the time with us. So
I appreciate y'all guys having me. It's been a pleasure for me. So
for sure. Well, thanks again. And we'll let you know when it's done. And again, thanks again. And have an awesome night. And just be careful out there.
Be careful. Yeah.
All right. You too.
All right. We'll see you around.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
sky, one turning around the other, financing in the night, in every changing color. How strange to be alive, how strange to be alone. It took so long to realize I'm never going home. And if I turn back now, I'll stay where I have always been. Feels like I'll never find a way, but I saw light, I saw light. I played the final number, the way to the other side. Just tell her that I love her. How strange to come alive at the end of all I know. It took so long to realize I'm never going home. If I turn back now, I'll stay who I have always been. Will come to save me, but I saw light, I saw light. One turning round the other, financing in the night, in every changing color. How strange to be alive, how strange to be alone. It took so long to realize I'm never going home.